Vegano Inquebrantable here. For this video, I will be talking about David Barreto's book, Spiritual Evolution in the Animal Kingdom, Karma, Reincarnation, and the Repercussions of Eating Meat. I have read Spiritual Evolution in the Animal Kingdom, Karma, Reincarnation, and the Repercussions of Eating Meat twice. There is an immaculate amount of information that I want to share with you that is derived from this book because it pertains to veganism through the spiritual and metaphysical perspective. As noted on David Barreto's website, David Barreto is a researcher and author in the field of esoteric schools, particularly focusing on themes related to religious and universalist literature. As an advocate for animal rights, David has dedicated years to researching their spiritual nature. Also noted on his website, David states, quote, "I talk about animal spirituality, not in terms of what can serve humans for their mystical benefit, but to shed light on how spiritual progress can only occur once we become compassionate toward all animals." End quote. I am making a series of videos in which I will read sections and chapters directly from this book. I think is of incredible knowledge. I believe this will help aid non-vegans' understanding of veganism through the perspective of spirituality. Equally, I believe this will reach vegans that are simply expanding their understanding of veganism spiritually. Today I am reading pages 8 through 19, 41 through 44, and 71 through 85. The spiritual bodies. The spirits that animate humans are composed of 6 subtle bodies, along with several layers in each of them. However, the variation in the number of subtle bodies in animals may fluctuate, since there is a colossal range of microscopic, single-celled, and brainless beings, as well as some of the size of cars and the hominids, bearers of amplified intellect. The bodies, which are found in both humans and non-human animals, are as follows. The physical body. This is a body that comprises the individual's material components, such as cells, organs, and tissues. The glands, whose physiological function includes producing hormones, are found in the physical body. However, they also work as capturing antennas and projectors of electromagnetism in the etheric body. The glands, therefore, personify the bridges that anchor energies of subtle bodies in the physical body. In unicellular beings, microscopic insects, and marine sponges, the physical body is generally the only sophisticated body that they possess. Therefore, only a migrating plasma system envelops them, which still cannot be characterized as a complex etheric body. The plasma system is a field of magnetic currents that surrounds a living being of a certain species. The currents around the living being in question are tenuous early in life, developing stronger in the middle of the being's life, and consequently migrating when the being is near its final moments in life. The migration to other familiar beings happens naturally by physical and biological proximity. The etheric body. This body is the semi-physical energy field that lies between the physical body and the astral body. The etheric body has this name by the reason of being considerably subtle. comparable to ether, but it has nothing to do with such an oxygenated compound. This semi-physical fluid is composed of plasma, loose atoms, photons, gases in small quantities, and electromagnetic currents. There are several layers of etheric bodies, some denser than others. The aura, which is seen via psychic ability, is part of this body. This body can be understood as a glue located in between the physical and the astral bodies, being dissolved after physical death. The etheric body is the subtle body of the highest complexity in beings such as insects, starfish, jellyfish, and many ordinary fish. In these animals, the etheric bodies host information about the species they are affiliated to and purport to inhabit. The migration occurs purely in the form of waves to other beings at the time of physical death. Their migration is a morphogenetic field process, which for these animals is the only mechanism of consciousness reincarnation to other animals of similar physical sophistication. The morphogenetic field is a hypothetical field that would explain the simultaneous emergence of the same adaptive function in non-contiguous biological populations. It would be a kind of instinctive, collective conscious of the populations, or the idea of mysterious telepathy type interconnections between organisms and of collective memories within species. This accounts for phantom limbs, how dogs know when their owners are coming home, and how people know when someone is staring at them from far away. Substantial parts of the chakras are located in the etheric body. However, the majority of these energy vortices continue to holographically exist in disincarnated spirits, although their aspects and functions are different from the chakras of an incarnated consciousness. Among the 7 main chakras of dogs, cats, and other quadrupeds, most of them easily connect to telluric energies as one of their sides faces downwards. Their 4 paws on the ground not only reinforce their relation to earthly life, but also serve as valves that exchange etheric energies with the ground. The vast majority of animals have their 3 lower chakras as their vital chakras, which are designed for survival. An example, eating, self-preservation, reproduction. Nevertheless, when emotionally connected to humans, a 4th chakra awakens, the heart chakra, which is associated with emotions. Astral body. This is the original matrix of the physical body, endowing it with functions and aspects. This body also carries the biological records of past lives, such as physical traumas, passions, and antimatter, which may be purged on a subsequent experience in the physical dimension. The antimatter purged is one of the main components of the so-called negative energy. The electrical charge of antimatter is generally opposite to that of ordinary matter, such as the electron and positron, the proton and the antiproton. The purge is usually the redeeming of karma debt. This body is one that gives physical form to consciousness when it is disembodied. This body is formed by an identical replica of the physical body as a hologram that can only be seen in the astral dimension or above. However, the ability of psychics to see astral bodies is usually effortless. The individual's psyche may shape it, transforming its appearance, which reciprocally affects the physical body to exhibit that image acquired on astral dimension. However, mutations in the astral body that may produce alterations in the physical body are reliant on DNA. That is, given the astral body has developed wings, these will not materialize in the physical body for obvious reasons. When an individual undertakes plastic surgery or dyes the hair another color, the astral body usually accompanies the transformation. When sleeping, the individual typically has this body detached from other bodies, hence the term astral travel. However, in astral travel, the projector's conscious mind is awakened and, accompanied by the astral body, detaches, and thus they travel in unison. In ordinary sleep, the astral body is detached, but consciousness, mind, will not necessarily detach conjointly. Lucid dreams may be perceived as an astral projection. However, this state suggests that the conscious mind has little lucidity, managing to only retain a certain limited amount of information. Occasionally, the information in the unconscious mind takes shape during the dream, turning the lucid dream's scarce lucidity into a reverie-like dream. The dream, in turn, is generally a series of old and new memories transported from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. Usually, animals of significant physical size may have lucid dreams, and this phenomenon occurs based on the density of white matter in their brain's cortex. The neocortex contains cells that produce sensations such as sights and sounds when no stimuli are coming from outside. To replicate such astral and subconscious sensations, the animal must have a relevant breadth of neocortex to assimilate the signs and sounds coming from another dimension and from remote parts of their brains. Since the presence of the neocortex is indispensable for dreams to occur, reptiles, amphibians, and fish do not dream. Keep in mind that along with the neocortex, animals need an astral body for the dream to occur. Allowing that the brain is the physical version of consciousness, albeit in a reduced version, it is understood that animals with an insufficiently developed astral body cannot dream, since the prototypes of their astral bodies do not detach from the others, and thus their instincts still completely dominate the functions of their brains, which do not yet assimilate individually. The astral body is made up of multidimensional holographic particles, which includes baryons, leptons, and neutrinos. Were these condensed physical molecules, they would be relative to molecules that constitute silicon dioxide, since the two elements have acutely similar frequency amplitudes, albeit in different dimensions. It is in this body that magic spells against the individual take place. Likewise, this is the subtle body of sensitive mediums that spirits and entities attach to for mystical channeling. The astral body is generally the most sophisticated subtle body that reptiles may own. Any auxiliary subtle body found in this species besides the astral would be simply a set of collective currents and or embryonic systems of an astral body. Amphibians and types of fish also have this as their most refined subtle body, which is characterized by a shallow individualization. The lower mental body. This body is a spherical wave that interpenetrates the other 6 bodies. In most species of animals, including humans, it is located between the navel and 2 feet above the head. This is also an elastic body, which is invariably much longer than the physical body. Although this body is mostly seen as an oval sphere in humans, its form can easily be molded into virtually any form, including that of the astral body. It is responsible for thoughts and reasoning, the subconscious, and the sense of right and wrong, being the non-material counterpart of the brain concerning emotions. This is the body where thought forms are produced, which, once nourished by the astral body, are exteriorized. This body is composed of highly subtle plasma. For most mammals, as well as most birds, this is the most developed subtle body in their current evolutionary levels. Domesticated animals, such as dogs, cats, horses, and monkeys, frequently strengthen these bodies thoroughly during their physical lives. The upper mental body. This body is responsible for the sublime thoughts and ideas detached from materialism. It is also the part of the individual that expresses the essence of consciousness by virtue of their personality. The upper mental body is often constructed in a manner that resembles helices or long petals. It is divided into 10 parts in humans and 3 parts in the vast majority of other mammals. These petals are connected to other subtle bodies employing energy cords. Although these petals give form to this body, the upper mental body does not have a defined shape, but it appears this way so that humans endowed with mediumship can understand it when in a mediumistic trance or in astral projection. Helix number 1 is connected to the Buddhic body in humans, with a direct tie to consciousness and past lives beyond 700 years. In animals, this helix still has an embryonic quality. Helix number 2 is linked to intuition, carrying information from experiences that occurred between 300 and 700 years ago. Only a small number of animals, usually quadrupeds, have this helix relatively developed, albeit almost constantly inactive. Helix number 3 is connected to the morals of the conscience, and it contains the memories of incarnations from the past 300 years. This helix attaches to the lower mental body. Mammals such as dogs, dolphins, pigs, and chimpanzees have this petal, comparatively similar to that of human souls. Helices 4 and 7 are attached to the astral body, absorbing and sending information. The process and functionality of these petals in the upper mental body of mammals and birds are identical to their functions in humans. Helices 5 and 6 are connected to the astral body, and prototypes of astral bodies of all vertebrate animals in a system identical to the process in humans. Helices 8 and 9 are connected to the Atman body. In animals, these helices are still small sparks in a rudimentary state. Helix number 10 is the center of this fan or flower bud, or the core of this body, where the energies of spiritual healing make their first stop before being distributed to other bodies, including the physical body. Do not confuse spiritual healing with energizing or energetic cleansing, which takes place directly in the astral and etheric bodies. The colors of this body vary from helix to helix in the souls of humans, each color being a sign of the health and state of each body whose specific helix is linked to. In animals, adversely, this flower is ordinarily sparkling white with hues of pink and blue. The upper mental body, which has no material counterpart, is entirely independent of physical existence or the third dimension. It is composed of a high-frequency field that operates in several dimensions simultaneously. Animals have yet to develop this body and experience most of its qualities. However, it already exists to a superficial degree in most mammals. The Buddhic body. This body is also known as Buddhi, where memories from the beginning of the individual's creation are stored. This sun-shaped body is an authentic software for recording consciousness. Numerous species of animals have it. However, it is comparable to a wave of information rather than a well-structured body. Thus, the Buddhic body of animals may be recognized as a holographic cell that eventually will embellish a sophisticated anatomy. All vertebrate animals have this corpuscle in the shape of a small spark, which agglutinates to their other bodies. The Buddhi also functions as a compass that measures when and how a discarnate spirit must reincarnate in order to repair the imbalances in its evolutionary and expanding journey. In animals where such a body is an elementary model, the rhythm in which their astral or etheric bodies should behave is the Buddhi's attribution. Moreover, it is through the Buddhic body that the spiritual guides and mentors communicate. The constitution of the Buddhi is forged by multidimensional fields networks. The Atman body. This shapeless body is known in Gnosticism as the divine spark. It is also the first element that detached from source to start its individual expansion. The Atman initiates its existence in the divine dimension, subsequently delving into the spiritual dimension. All sorts of animals, both multicellular and unicellular, are a divine spark. What varies is its functions concerning each species. In primitive species, typically communities of insects, each Atman is encapsulated by a collective aggregation of physical and semi-physical elements, resulting in a collective journey until each insect migrates to another kingdom in evolution. In the spark resides the perfect essence of the monad, which in cosmology refers to the supreme being or the divinity within. The evolution of the animal's spirits in the third dimension occurs proportionally to the evolution of the species, whereby a given species undergoes adaptive mutations, sophisticating their bodies and senses. It must be stressed that the same process has happened and will continue to happen to humans. Nevertheless, physical changes over the millennia do not happen unexpectedly, but by the influence of consciousness that animates the physical body. Sequentially, the evolution of the spirit inclines to the knowledge acquired, along with noble morals such as compassion, benevolence, and empathy. In other words, love. As an example, the spirits that animate frogs, whose Atman origins are identical to those of humanoid spirits, must also develop their physical bodies to obtain enough spiritual expansion, thereby being able to make compassionate decisions and progress to transcendence. It must be taken into consideration that although humans can develop such qualities, a large proportion of the world's population remains dormant to them. Therefore, being human does not automatically classify them as superior to spirits of non-human animals. The souls of animals, therefore, are notably similar to souls that animate humans. Many of the spirits that animate humans also initiated their individualized journeys elsewhere in the cosmos, as in other planets. However, the divine spark of each one was generated in a similar course to that of all existing animals. Metaphysical interactions. Animal environment. The ether absorbed and exhaled by insects, as well as by other large animals, will unquestionably interact with humans' electromagnetic fields. Energy travels to the body's organs, tissues, and physical fluids via the energy force centers and the meridians of the human's semi-physical bodies. This energy, commonly called by different cultures vital energy, chi, ki, or prana, is generated by 5 different sources. The macrocosmic energy. This energy is the elastic energy stored by the individual's auric field and manifested by the environment in which they live. The interaction with the environment, that is, cleaning the house, self-hygiene, sleeping hours, and material comfort in the home, all affect this type of energy. When the macrocosmic energy of the environment is attracted to the individual's auric field, it immediately becomes part of it. Homes, and without exception, all physical vicinities comprehend an electromagnetic network. While the house may be measured as matter and particle, it can also be measured as energy and wave. Thus, these wave fields carry information regarding the nature of the house's matter and particles. The waves of a disorganized or disheveled house carry information of chaos and imbalance. These chaotic energies influence the elastic energy of the individual's auric field, which, as a means to compensate the corrosive circumstance, expands itself, nevertheless becoming scattered. As all semi-physical elements have limits on how far they can withstand distortion, they are not capable of coping without altering their intrinsic structure. Nevertheless, the essence of elasticity is reversibility. The individual may recover the field's lost particles by simply decluttering, replacing a mattress, or by including plants and pleasant pictures in the house. Such energy is the same for both animals living in the wild and for domestic animals. The ancestral energy. This is the radiant energy carried by light and thermal energy. Individuals inherit it from ancestors by the route of DNA in electrical signals between the chromosomes' base pairs. In complicated molecules like chromosomes, low-lying excited states, such as vibrational motions, take place at each chemical bond, like those between hydrogen and other atoms in the base pairs of DNA, with frequencies ranging from infrared to microwaves. In turn, these motions cause the charge on molecules to move, producing local electrical currents. Electrical pulses assist chromosome base pairs in message transmission. These pulses become closely linked to the individual during fertilization and throughout the gestational period. The frequency of electrical pulses between the double helices of the ancestors' chromosomes are thus passed from generation to generation, hence their offspring inherits radiant energy. The respiratory energy. This is the respiratory kinetic energy of the movement and the flow that the lungs project into the body. This energy is both voluntary and involuntary, this system being the only one in the human body to have both characteristics. The vortex generated by such energy is air-related, not only with regard to matter, but also to what hermetically relates to the mind and thought forms. The whirlwind of waves is generated by an assortment of hadrons, whence virtually all of the mass of ordinary matter originates. The food energy. This is the chemical energy released when the calories of food are consumed by the digestive system. Alternatively, food energy may be explained as the chemical energy that animals gain via the process of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration may involve the chemical reaction of food molecules with molecular oxygen in aerobic respiration, or via the process of reorganizing food molecules without additional oxygen and anaerobic respiration. Conjointly with calories, food energy offers the molecular and atomic constitution of food, which also manifests the quality of energy that is transmitted as information. When eating, the physical body absorbs the particle, as the etheric body absorbs the wave of it, and consequently the information encountered. The interpersonal energy. This is the potential energy stored by the individual's compound field, generated by the auric fields of individuals physically and emotionally close to them. This type of energy is commonly called field electrostatics, where the set of charges between the mental and emotional fields of the individual and their companions generate a potential system of repulsion or attraction. In these lines, the interaction with insects and other animals occurs most of the time via the energies mentioned. Insects and harmful bacteria in the house are attracted by energy imbalances arising from the place's disharmony, despite the physical and natural reasons why an insect may appear. An example, food crumbs, holes in the walls, and particular climate. It is indisputable that such disorderly only unfolds on the physical plane, as it is already a reality in the individual's etheric, mental, and emotional planes. Spiritual repercussions of eating meat. The spiritual and energetic repercussions of eating meat must be understood as the reaction one's subtle body displays after the ingestion of meat or other etherically toxic foods of animal origin. The following chapter will exclusively discuss meat. However, some of the concepts discussed here may be applied to other foods and byproducts or services resulting from animal exploitation, such as the use of skins and furs, feathers and bones. The totality of the human being as an incarnated spirit is composed of 7 main bodies. They are the physical, the etheric, the astral, the lower mental, the upper mental, the Buddhic, and the Atman body. Through some of these bodies and meridians, different types of energy are distributed. Meridians carry ki/chi or prana from and to the physical body. These energy canals also conduct other categories of energy that travel through the physical organs, tissues, and liquids to and from the etheric body and the astral body. They are the macrocosmic energy, ancestral energy, respiratory energy, food energy, and interpersonal energy. With reference to the aforementioned bodies and types of energy, meat is to be assessed for its etheric components, as well as where and how these energies reverberate in the human body. Meat and antimatter. As well as having a physical body, animals are endowed with an etheric body, which provides them with energy at the same time as it serves as a glue between their physical bodies and their astral bodies. Their astral bodies, like the humans, is the duplicate of the physical body in the astral dimension. The emotions of sentient beings are typically stored in their astral bodies. When negative, these emotions are carriers of antimatter in the subtle planes. Antimatter is one of the main components of the commonly named negative energy. A particle of matter and a particle of antimatter both have the same mass, but the electrical charge of antimatter is generally opposite to that of ordinary matter, as exemplified in the case of the electron and positron, or the proton and antiproton. A clairvoyant medium can observe antimatter in the aura of individuals either as a particle or as a wave. These peculiar reverse particles in the aura signify for the individual an energetic deficiency caused by the stagnation of vital flow and the accumulation of astral detritus. Naturally, the physical body is composed of matter. However, the etheric body is constituted of subtle matter, which can be understood as a regular matter, but natural to another dimension. All in the physical dimension is composed of matter made up of electrons, quarks, and other elementary particles. Every particle and antiparticle is fundamentally an excitation in all permeating quantum fields. When particles and antiparticles meet, they annihilate each other. Nevertheless, the energy resulting from mutual destruction must go somewhere. Thus, photons with high energy are propelled, giving rise to various proportions of gamma rays and neutrinos. Most of the total energy of annihilation emerges in the form of ionizing radiation, which consists of subatomic particles or electromagnetic waves that have sufficient energy to ionize atoms or molecules by detaching electrons from them. As a result, that two-way liquidation reduces the size of the electromagnetic field of molecules and atoms. If the surrounding subtle matter or holographic matter is present during annihilation, the energy content of this radiation will be absorbed and converted into other forms of energy, such as destructive heat or light. The amount of energy released is usually proportional to the total mass of the collided matter and antimatter, in accordance with the notable mass energy equivalence equation, E equals mc squared. All in all, subtle antimatter annihilates subtle matter, which reflects on the illness of the etheric body and, consequently, negatively affects the physical body. It is also crucial to emphasize that the matter and antimatter found in the subtle bodies are holographic particles, that is, they are still to gain mass and become completely physical. Wave-particle duality. is the concept of quantum mechanics that says that every particle or quantum body can be described as either a particle or a wave, depending on how it is observed and measured. Thus, along with the ingestion of meat, there is the unavoidable ingestion of its electromagnetic wave, which contains information on how that flesh was generated. The information is presented as distortions caused by antimatter, which disfigure the wave frequency patterns. As the eaten meat becomes part of the physical body, the electromagnetic wave that constitutes it will become part of the individual's electromagnetic field. By attracting antimatter to its own etheric body through ingestion, the individual causes the destruction of matter as well as the destruction of the attracted antimatter. That is, they annihilate each other, causing loss of vital fluids in the region and in the entire physical body. This mutual annihilation leads to the release and loss of photons and neutrinos in the etheric body. Therefore, lacking a natural flow of vital energy, the physical body will present epigenetic and emotional abnormalities. In a similar vein, the consumption of antimatter found in meat in the form of waves perforates the etheric body of those who consume it, since antimatter annihilates matter which is still in its etheric form as a hologram. Etheric matter, or ethereal matter, is matter in its embryonic stage. It commonly condenses as physical matter to make part of one's physical body. All in all, antimatter invariably appears on the subtle bodies before manifesting in the physical bodies. Although it is presumed that meat may offer one of the 5 types of subtle energy, it is imperative to indicate that the molecular and atomic constitution of food also manifests the quality of energy being transmitted and absorbed, not just its calories. The pains that an animal experiences at the very moment of death, or the panic that precedes it, leave scarring marks on their etheric bodies. The etheric body is the subtle body that vitalizes the physical body with vital fluids. This means that these dreadful feelings, which reside at low vibration frequencies, consequently permeate the animal's flesh as well as the rest of their physical bodies. In these circumstances, there is no energy cleansing that could potentially liberate the meat from such energies, since the physical molecules of the meat have been generated or redefined at a molecular level under such low frequencies. The terror and pain during their deaths are not the only moments that affect their physical bodies on this level. Confinement and incapability of expressing their natural instincts also influence their subtle bodies, including the lower and upper mental bodies. Calves that are taken from their mothers seconds after birth, chickens that never enjoy spreading their wings, pigs that will never touch the natural ground or see a ray of sunlight during their lives. All this suffering contributes to shaping how each molecule of their meat will be generated at the subatomical level. Elementars are static beings shaped by the repeated emotions of incarnated sentient beings. They are the result of beliefs and thoughts sustained by strong emotions. The elementars are intensified holograms which have no life of their own, but they appear to exercise some function in the astral world. Under constant terror, animals will involuntarily fabricate elementars which will remain connected to their physical bodies and, consequently, to their flesh. Elementars and elementals are different characters. Elementars are energies shaped in the astral dimension, whereas elementals are, in most cases, prototypes of the souls of animals or other beings who dwell in certain vibrational bands of the elements of nature, such as fire, air, water, and earth. The vast majority of animals lined up to be slaughtered create a form of holographic shield around themselves as a means of protection. Unfortunately, this shield is nothing more than a holographic projection of their energies. These shields are described as elementars. Upon being killed, the astral bodies of those animals separate from their elementars. However, their corpses still retain attachments to those holograms. Generally, elementars' shields produced in life act as a toxic layer over those who produce them, which would serve to avert the enemy. When eating meat, the possibility of consuming its allocated elementars is considerable. Psychosomatic complications. Upon eating meat, the transfer of vital fluids from subtle bodies to the physical bodies is reduced as a result of blockages caused by the low amplitude of frequency in the meat, which prevents energy in the subtle body from moving smoothly. The emotional body of an individual who has eaten meat will naturally assimilate the feelings attached to the meat, which may motivate psychosomatic illnesses which occur when the mind and emotions generate a physical disease in the body itself in a forced activity to purge it. The animal's feelings attached to the flesh could be classified by the amount of accumulated antimatter in it, in addition to other particles derived from their thought forms and elementars. The solar plexus, also called celiac plexus, is not a chakra, but a physiological area in the human body. It is called solar plexus due to its radiating nerves, which resemble the sun. It is connected to several nerves and veins, besides being the locality in the human body with most nerves after the brain. The plexus is formed in part by the greater and lesser splanchnic nerves of both sides, and fibers from the anterior and posterior vagal trunks. The celiac plexus proper consists of the celiac ganglia neural structure with a network of interconnecting fibers. The aorticorenal ganglia are often considered to be part of the celiac ganglia and thus part of the plexus. It is over the solar plexus that the navel chakra, or manipura, is situated. The solar plexus etheric energy fundamentally exists to provide humans with an etheric shield, as well as functioning as a natural antenna, so better perception from the environment can occur. However, after eating meat, a considerable amount of etheric energy from that energy vortex is redirected to aid digestion. Therefore, the individual's aura is momentarily compromised by the lack of etheric energy, which leaves it noticeably dispersed and subject to alien energies. For this reason, among others, various spiritual workers and mediums abstain from eating meat on the days when they should work with their subtle energies. Humans have approximately 30 trillion cells in their body, and within each cell there is a prototype system fairly similar to other large systems that comprise the human body in its entirety: a respiratory system, a digestive system, an excretory system, an endocrine system, a nervous system, a reproductive system, and an immune system, as well as a nucleus in which the entire genetic code is found. In cell biology, it is believed that the nucleus of the cell would be associated with its brain, an organ responsible for dictating how and when any voluntary or involuntary task is to be performed. This is still the case, as cells need a nucleus to divide themselves in order to replicate. Nevertheless, it was discovered that the cells continued to live for approximately 60 days and still performed most tasks after they had their nuclei removed. For this reason, the nucleus is not the only system to control the cell, though it remains their primary control source. Research also concluded that the membranes of cells were able to read external signals from the environment, and therefore they were able to send these signals to proteins, telling them what to do. Thus, the membrane, not just the nucleus, played a role in telling proteins how to behave. The signals perceived by the cell's membrane are of electric, chemical, and electromagnetic nature. They are commonly associated with emotions, being transported by, but not limited to, neuropeptides and blood plasma. Whenever a thought occurs, biological reactions follow, which indicates physical feedback. This implies that thoughts, via electrical and chemical derivatives, generate physical events. In these lines, it is understood that the mind influences the brain at the pace that the brain influences the mind. Research explains the action of thoughts on organic cells. Whenever a thought occurs, an emotion follows. The emotion, physiologically perceived, is generated by neurotransmitters in the synapses. The research has found that in the hypothalamus, these neurotransmitters join small chains of amino acids, producing neuropeptides. These neuropeptides act as activating hormones that spread through the blood. Once all cells have receptors for this neurochemistry, the peptides bind to the cell membrane, activating or deactivating genetic activity. Subsequently, the cell's behavior changes based on the quality of the neuropeptide. This is a phenomenon called epigenetics. Such a mechanism affects how cells work, altering the production of protein, changing inflammatory response, and modulating immunological behavior. Thoughts that start as immaterial occurrences become material circumstances in the body, and likewise, cerebral automatism generates an idea, and that is reflected organically. In conclusion, the cell's response to the environment is critically dependent on both its nucleus along with what its membrane may perceive in its environment. This determines that cells do behave and consequently may mutate as a result of their physiological surroundings, regardless of what their DNA may carry. Correlatively, the pain and emotions that animals experience during their lives may impact the behavior and development of their cells, which certainly includes their flesh. All matter has a holographic counterpart in the astral realm, that is, its exact copy called etheric double. When the individual lives in chaos, being surrounded by wrinkled clothes on the floor and dirty bed linen, the attraction of more astral chaos occurs, which may inevitably drift to the vicinity's physical dimension. The same assumption is taken with regard to accumulated dust and the general rubbish that agglomerates. Nevertheless, it is in the fridge and cupboards where such putrid condensation may allure the most chaotic varieties of astral waste. Foods that are bought but not eaten and that expire and rot will generate a decaying quality of gases that spread onto other foods and in the corners of the rooms. These etheric gases block the flow of energy, causing mold, infiltration, and insect infestations. This may even affect money flow and general health. Even though they may be stored in the freezer or in vacuum sealed tins or even approach expiry date, meats in the cupboard and fridge go through a purification process in the etheric dimensions, which emit a sort of deep taupe color fume, typically associated with astral worms. Animal fur and leather also undergo etheric putrefaction. Once in contact with the individual who wears it, the material may absorb, albeit moderately, some of the wearer's auric particles to etherically decompose in its totality. Etheric generation of flesh. In quantum field theory, the quantum vacuum state is the quantum state with the lowest possible energy. Generally, this field does not contain physical particles either. However, it is by no means a simple empty space. According to quantum mechanics, the vacuum state is not truly empty but instead contains fleeting electromagnetic waves and particles that continually emerge and disappear from existence. The Higgs field, which is a quantum field, is a field of energy that is thought to exist in every region of the physical universe. The field is accompanied by a fundamental particle known as the Higgs boson, which is used by the field to continuously interact with other particles, such as the electron. Particles that interact with the Higgs field gain mass from it, resulting in the slowing down of the particle, which also loses the ability to travel at the speed of light. If the Higgs field did not exist, particles would not have the mass required to attract one another. Therefore, they would float freely while their particle form remains traveling at light speed. Additionally, gravity would not exist, as mass would not exist to attract other mass. In other words, without the Higgs field, there would only be light. Giving mass to an object is hence referred to as the Higgs effect. This effect transfers mass or energy to any particle that passes through the Higgs field. However, light that passes through it gains energy but not mass, as its waveform does not have mass, while its particle form constantly travels at light speed. The Higgs boson contains the relative mass in the form of energy, and once the field has endowed a formerly massless particle, the particle in question will slow down and become heavy, which may be understood as materialized. It is generally accepted that there is only one field in the universe, called the electromagnetic quantum vacuum. However, other fields are accepted to be parts of this, such as the Higgs field and the gravitational field. In this context, the Higgs field is the field related to matter, while the electromagnetic quantum vacuum is related to all physical creation. To understand such theories, the pattern of information that creates massless particles should be assessed. In particle physics, the two known massless particles are the gauge bosons, in example the photon, carrier of electromagnetism, and the gluon, carrier of the strong force. Elementary particles, whose interactions are described by the gauge theory, interact with each other by the exchange of gauge bosons, usually as virtual particles. All known gauge bosons have a spine of 1. For comparison, the Higgs boson has spin 0. Therefore, all known gauge bosons are vector bosons. These virtual particles are created by the perturbation of a quantum field, which is described by the perturbation theory in quantum field theory. In a nutshell, a perturbation occurs when a specific locality of a quantum field changes its frequency or excitation, thus creating a particle from nothing. The nothing is, in fact, an oscillation of a quantum field locality as described by the perturbation theory. In sacred geometry, it is understood that creation develops from geometrical structures which can be holograms in the third dimension, albeit a fully formed object or entity in a much more subtle dimension. The information contained in the waves of creation expresses itself into geometric shapes, known by some cultures today as God's geometry. Apart from being created by holographic geometric shapes, particles are also categorized in a concept of quantum mechanics called wave-particle duality, which states that every particle or quantum entity may be described as either a particle or a wave. In the notion of particle-wave duality, it is hence accepted that upon eating food, the physical body will absorb the particle, while the etheric body will absorb the wave, and consequently its information in the form of geometric holograms. Equally, the information that was passed on to the flesh through the animal's etheric bodies are causalities of the environment and of their own feelings, but the information that generated every atom of their meat will also be absorbed as information by whomever eats it. In metaphysics, meat is created by astral factors intended to help the spirit express its potentials in matter. The first molecules to become flesh in a living body are designed to strengthen intention, impede obstacles, and guarantee courage. Literally, the reason why flesh, an example muscle, exists is to enable willpower to manifest in the third dimension. The muscles in animals, as well as in humans, have this physiological task to guarantee the force of intention and action in matter. The greater is someone's muscle mass without the need for physical exercise or dietary supplements, the greater is their strength of intention. When the muscle is forcibly removed from the animal, that is, when the animal's force of intention is used by someone other than the owner of that muscle, that force muscle etherically becomes its anti-version by having its polarities changed. Flesh, therefore, turns into an apathetic and pessimistic matter. The geometry that initially formed those elementary particles from a quantum state, as a result, spins all of its holograms in their opposite directions. Such movement is not creative, which means that the piece of meat will not physically metamorphose into a different physical element, although its etheric version will. Reasonably, questions may arise with regard to carnivorous animals in nature. However, the etheric life cycle of those animals' molecules of meat and tissues ends at the moment an animal kills the other. This is determined by the habitat's morphogenetic programming system. In addition, the muscle and organs of animals are used in accordance with their natural needs before and during their physical deaths, as opposed to adapting to the artificial arrangements developed by animal husbandry. I hope you all enjoyed this reading. Look at the description box for more information.